Hey everybody, welcome back. We're doing another MCU video. We got our good friend Eddie over here. Hey buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yep, no, thank you for having me. We're going to be talking about She-Hulk's episodes 5 and 6. We do these in little pairs recently because they are shorter episodes, and you know what? It just works better that way, okay, people? Mm-hmm. So like and subscribe, darn it. All right, so we got episode 5, She-Hulk. This is the really the main, I guess, focus of this one was the court case about how Titania had the She-Hulk name. So I guess high level, what do you, how'd you feel about this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Any high level feelings?
I think I kind of feel the same way about like every episode of She-Hulk so far. It's kind of just like they're all fun, you know, like nothing's really too over the top or too like low. It's just a solid, fun episode, and you really get to explore the character of Jen and She-Hulk and like the difference between the two. And I mean, this episode specifically. And then we get a. Pardon me. We finally get a good sense of Titania because like we've only seen her once, twice, maybe total in the whole episode, in the whole series. So we get an idea of her, and then we introduce a new lawyer, Mallory, who I believe she's a Broadway actress in New York too. Okay. So this is a great spot for her, and she is a character in the comics who does have a vendetta of some sorts with Jen, so that's great. Yeah, I mean the episode was pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward for the most part. Yeah.
I didn't know that about Mallory. That's interesting. You know, I thought somewhat similar. I don't want to call it a filler episode per se, because I think it's developing the contrarian aspect of Titania versus She-Hulk a bit. It's building that slightly. I don't like feel a strong, and we'll get into this in episode 6 too. But I don't feel like a strong, like, oh my gosh, they're, you know, super rivals or anything like that. But they're clearly not friends. There's clearly something building up there. So, you know, but I think Titania more than likely in this episode or in this show is going to be sort of she's not necessarily the main villain that we're going to care about long term, I guess is what I'll say, which we can talk about more in a little bit and when we get to episode 6. But yeah, I mean, Mallory's interesting to me. I like her hard, but she definitely has a soft side. You know, she puts up that wall a bit. And it's just like, you know, and then she's like, they went to the bar together and she was sort of like, don't act like we're friends, you know, or something along those lines.
She's that hard ass lawyer that like you want to love her, but you're like, I don't know, she's kind of a jerk. I kind of want to love. Yeah, I know. That's great. Yeah. No, I would agree with that. So we get going with the court case. It seems like it's going to go towards Titania. And then, of course, Jen has the revelation that she was actually promoting herself as She-Hulk on the dating app. And all the dudes come in, which was mostly comic relief, I'd say, with some character building. What'd you think about how they brought those guys in? And is there anything that jumped out at you about any one of them or their interactions? Honestly, man, I mean, all 4 or 5 of them played their part as far as their interest and their purpose in the show. You know, it's just a handful of men who have one thing in mind, and you know, She-Hulk was about it, but Jen really didn't hit it for them, and so like it was. I'm telling you, every time a guy comes into the show, except for one, Pug. Anytime there's a guy in the episode, I just know I'm gonna cringe a little bit because they're always terrible, they're always trash, and I'm not mad at it. Like I get it. It's fun because like I was telling this to a friend of mine today. We were talking, and I'm watching House of Dragons right now, and even then, watching the time period then, you know, it's all about men over women, and now it's women over men. So like it seems like through every show there's like a gender war, and you're just like, all right, like no one's gonna win over the top on any show. So it's great. Yeah, in this episode, I mean, they come in and they say just like some of the most awful things, and she just sit there and take it, and you're like, that's tough. Yeah, especially when the one guy was something. I mean, he said it softly, but when they asked, would you date Jen? You know, as opposed to She-Hulk, and he's just like, you know, he looks at her and she sort of like smirks, and he's like, nah, she's just not my type, you know, and like that.
Yeah, and you can just see Jen Walters' character just sort of like, yeah, I guess I'm not that cool as She-Hulk. Everyone likes She-Hulk, which is like, all right. So they did.
I think that's cool, personally. I think it's cool when there's a moment that involves Jen when she's as She-Hulk, and you can see her kind of shine through She-Hulk. Like you can see that moment of her kind of be like, damn, because like it does hurt her because she is one of the same person, but like it's hard to see through a character through their other side when they're not, if the actor's not good enough. But you can see Jen through She-Hulk and her sadness. It's not just one of those things where she keeps this tough exterior. She does feel, and that's great. So,
no, I agree with that.
That was a really hard moment.
Yeah, and I think that's a big key thing with some of these episodes where I could see some people getting frustrated because they expect things to be instant with Marvel. But this is a development. This is a show, and it's showing like that character development specifically with her, and you feeling those feelings. So, I noticed the one guy, and go ahead, go. Yep.
Real quick, with what you said about development, I do think that Marvel in our time with this series, it seems like in the past some of the series were kind of rushed, and it felt like there were some things that probably could have been added to actually kind of draw up the series and actually add more to it in the end. This one feels like it's really being drawn out, like you're getting like every single step with She-Hulk, and I like that because I feel like it's a different way of doing, or it's a different approach than like the last few we've watched. Like I know with Falcon and Winter Soldier, when they made it, it was around COVID times, so they cut out a lot of scenes that were related to COVID because they felt they would be insensitive. Now, I would love if they went back and redid those. I think I've said this before, and then we'd be able to see that series in its entirety rather than just like watching it like kind of pieced together, like a puzzle or what, like just like tape and some scotch tape and put some pieces together. But I do feel like they're drawing out this series more and really kind of letting us walk in her shoes and just to get an idea of who she is and the character and just the world that she lives in, which is great. No,
I agree with that. Hopefully we'll see what happens when the show ends, but and not feel rushed, but I would tend to agree with that. One of the guys that was in there was that guy who was talking about the blood a little bit, which, I don't recall him giving any sort of Easter eggy type things in this episode. He seemed to be just there, right?
I'm not it seemed like he was just there.
Okay. Let's see. Go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking. I know we had a discussion last time about one of the guys, part of the group that tried to like get her with a needle.
Yeah, that guy.
He didn't really give up anything he didn't really say anything in court that would really trigger any kind of like alert for me though.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was a couple weeks ago now that we've seen it, but I would agree with you. So then as they're in there, that obviously swings the court case. She gets her name She-Hulk, rah, and they start talking about clothes, right? And then we've got, I forget his name in there. I don't know. I'm looking for it here, but I don't see it. But the tailor to the superhuman everybody. The actor seems to be fun. I enjoy his dynamic, his sort of, he's I definitely say he's playing the stereotypical, like, don't bother me designer type person. I'm better than everybody.
Someone made the comparison on Twitter. It was like him and Edna Mode from The Incredibles, and it was like pinpoint perfect. It was perfect.
That's awesome.
Just their characters and their demeanors. It was just like that's what it is. That's exactly what he played.
It was. I enjoyed it, especially when it was like, no, I'm done. Not enough time. You said she was an Avenger. I'm out. So
he was great.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with that, outside of the fact she's going to get an outfit, which we'll eventually see, hopefully, is some of the outfits that were in there, specifically how it ended. Obviously, this isn't a teaser at this point. We all know he's coming, but the Daredevil helmet, it was the yellow one.
So good.
Yeah.
Which I don't know which part of the comic is this, but like, do you know the story behind like why it's yellow and red? Because it's like the rebirth. Is that what it is?
I have to double check it. Was reading about it, I'd say months ago when the first trailers came out. If you're sitting there, check it out. But I don't remember offhand. I know in this particular show, I know he was in a series. I want to say it might have been one of the Shadowland ones, but I'm not 100% certain on it. So I could see, with this whole born again thing, that maybe that's the costume they roll into, because I saw something on Twitter the other day or maybe it was I think it was on Twitter, but it was through like comic reviews or something. I forget the name of it, comicbook.com or whatever it is, where they were talking about Foggy Nelson, the main actor who played him in the Netflix series, that he's going to reprise his role as Foggy in the Reborn series as well. So
yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, so maybe if there is a Reborn outfit that is yellow, maybe that is what it is. But I mean, personally, I thought it was cool. I was, it's getting me more and more excited to see him in the episodes. Did you find it?
What I'm seeing here, as far as what the internet is saying, it's just the main reason for Daredevil suit being yellow, for being honest. is likely a way to differentiate the MCU version from previous iterations. And then another one says it was featured in a comic, Daredevil 1 in 1964. So it might be a tie, or it might be a nod to his original comic, his origins.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, so it's just sort of a nod to one of the old costumes, and it could be the reborn thing too. All right, I can buy that. Yeah. I'm down. So let's see. Is there any? Oh yeah, there was a part here that she will be, and she is Hulk's cousin by blood. Yes, by blood. So but that wasn't anything too special. So in the Daredevil costume, is there anything else episode 5 wise that we didn't touch on? Again, it was pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy.
I love the little nod to the guy who has like the fake Avengers like gear, Avengers, but I thought it was pretty funny.
That guy was hilarious. I did.
That was hysterical. Those knockoffs.
Yeah,
and then. Every end credit scene has like some sort of drawing that kind of ties into one of the some parts of the episode. And this one, it had like all the different like Avengers shoes, like Wakanda ones. There were Daredevil ones in there. There were Deadpool ones in there. That was pretty cool.
Did you see the ones for the Thing?
I did.
Those
were pretty sweet.
That honestly, of all of them that were on there, that was the one that intrigued me the most. Because
they keep teasing they keep teasing them in here.
Yeah, and it's like so he clearly exists on some level that we haven't seen. So to me, that means he's out and about doing things. So he's either going to make a cameo at some point, or the Fantastic Four movie that comes out is going to be at the same, timeline as these. It's not going to be, while it might be a year or two away, it's not going to be a year or two away from what is happening right now, because he already exists out there. And if they do that wrong, then don't get me wrong, that's not the biggest of, holes as far as stories go, but that's one that I definitely want to pay attention to a little bit to see if Marvel hits every single one of those. They're typically pretty good, but
yeah.
All right.
Might not be for a while though, so we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Patience is virtue.
I feel that. All right, so episode 6. Now this is the wedding episode. So
I got notes.
Yeah, and they literally have the breaking of the fourth wall, where she's like, yep, wedding episode, doesn't seem like good timing, but are weddings ever? And I was like, all right, I can appreciate that. I
got a friend who had a wedding on a Thursday a couple weeks ago. I was like, a wedding on a Thursday? I was like, I got to take PTO for you? Like, that's so wild.
I'm trying to remember when I got married, man, it might have been a Thursday or Friday. Now, in fairness, let me tell you why we did it. Now, this is not for everybody. So, obviously we were out in LA when we were doing it at the time. And anybody who's not familiar with LA, I know you came here for maybe MCU stuff, but guess what? You get all of Eddie, you get all of me. That's what you get. So, we were looking around for venues, and they were insanely expensive. But they drop off significantly during the week, because why? There's no demand during the week, because one of the reasons you just said is people have to take off PTO, they're at work, whatever. So I think we did. I can't remember if it was a Thursday. It might have been a Friday, which is a little better, but still sort of like, wait a minute, what? So anyway,
it's a nice little loophole, to be honest with you. Like, if you want to lower the numbers, you put it on a weekday too. It's just like, okay, we don't have to invite that many people, or we can invite people. And then based on the day, they'll be able to knock the numbers off slow, because people are like, I gotta take time off for this. And it's like, I think, do I love them that much? Like, that's like, that's like the whole, so good.
Especially in LA with the traffic. It's like, I'm trying to get there from work, like Our buddy Felber, she was, she's like, I'm trying to make it there. And I'm like, it's fine, dude. Like, I get it. So
she's
anyway,
adorable,
people don't necessarily know her. One day maybe she'll be on SNL, and then we can bring her back in here. And
cannot wait.
Yeah. All right. So she goes to a wedding. It's no +1. The first thing that they kind of happen there, it seems to be like she gets there, She-Hulk, and everyone's all excited except for the bride, and she's like, "What are you doing?" So it's basically a Jen episode, which is sort of the theme. It's a weird theme because it's the first time somebody actually wants her as Jen, right? Besides her, which I found interesting. And at the same time, there's, they treat her sort of trashy as Jen in this episode. So what did you think of that general dynamic of what you saw there?
Okay, I want to just put a warning out there. This is just my personal opinion, what I've seen through my female friends and the conversations we've had. I love how catty women can be. I think it's hysterical, especially with like in their own friend circle.
Yeah.
And I see it a lot within our football circle too. Like there are girls that will just be friends with somebody because they live in the same, because they operate in the same social circle. But once you leave that circle, I freaking hate so-and-so. And you're like, I had a feeling you did. I don't know why. Because like, I feel like women, some women, let me clarify, have this, there's a concept that they have that I don't think men have at all, called frenemies.
Okay.
It's where you're friends with a girl that you don't like, but you maintain this weird facade of a friendship when it's not really there at all. It's almost like you're just tolerating them. As a guy, I would just be like, leave. Like, I don't need you around. You know what I mean? Like you can bounce. Like you're good. But for some reason, like a lot of women, do this, and I'm fascinated by it. I'm like, why? And I think it's so funny. There's a power dynamic when it comes to women too. Like, you'll rarely ever see this like the same women out like in the same like attire. If you see if a guy sees another guy wearing the same shirt, oh, dude, nice shirt. Like we'll have that moment. Yeah. But if a woman does it, it's like, oh, one of us has to change. Like, or like, we can't stay at this bar. Like we gotta leave. Like there's this whole like there's this power struggle like within the within the group. It's wild. So when she gets there, and she looks dime 10 out of 10. The bride is threatened by it. She's like, you can't be this at my wedding. It's just because it's my day. Yeah. And even though you're here, I need Jen to be here. You know what I mean? And that's diminishing her value completely. Like, even when she got the invite, she was like, why are you saying yes? If it's like, oh, if I feel obligated to, like, that would just be like, no, I'm not gonna go to this. Right. Like, I just and the moment everybody turned, you can see her in the back kind of just like awe-struck and dumbfounded. You knew she was going to call it out. Yep. And she had to. And so that sucks for her. And then the whole episode, she was like, oh, can you clean up? Because some of the, the wait staff thinks I'm treating them like trash. Oh, yeah. Hey, you're on ironing duty because like they wrinkled their shirts playing on a Nintendo Switch. Like, are you kidding me?
Wasn't that so weird?
So crazy.
Yeah.
But that dynamic shows like heavy in this episode. Dude, it's also funny how like friends grow apart. I'm not sure how it is with female friends in their groups. Like I know some girls who have girlfriends they can go back and like it's, they don't miss a step. I have friends back home I've known since elementary school, and we might not talk every day, but like once we're back around each other, it's like we don't miss a beat. Like we're right back where we started, we're right back where we left off. And with them, there was never talk of like their childhood. It was just like, how are you doing now, and not how are you doing. How is your dating life? And then that was a moment too. And she was like, oh, I'm doing okay. Good. There's a strength in that. And then like she just drove away from that to answer Edward or Jacob. And you're like, really? Like that was the whole conversation. Again, like as a guy, I wouldn't even tolerate that. I don't even know why I'd be at the wedding. I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, but like it just goes to show that it goes to show really how good Jen's heart is. How even though she's going through all these things, the court case that she had earlier, and then going to this wedding, even though she doesn't want to be there, she still has a heart to like, I have to be there. She has a conscience, and that's great because most people don't have that. They're very selfish, I guess you could put it as a way to say it. But Jen's wholesome. She's great. So sorry, I said too much.
No, you're good, dude. I thought it was a good analogy of male-female dynamics. Sometimes you do see that. It's an interesting concept. I do generally agree with you. While me personally, I'm probably less. I'm a little more maybe not frenemy is not the right word, but I'll just sort of like, all right, I'll tolerate this person. I'm fine. Now, I can't fake it. Like my wife and I talk about this, is I can't fake it to people. Like I'm just like, no. And she'll be like, well, can we go hang out with? I'm like, dude, really? Like I don't want to. No, like no.
I don't like Steve. Steve is not cool.
Yeah, like, exactly. I'm like, I can't, do that. I don't want to do it. Anyway. So, I did find that dynamic very interesting. Again, similar to last episode, it's continuing to build Jen's character. The development continues to happen. I am interested to see if this, all of the, because like you said, she's got all these stressful type things happening with the court case, her dating life, becoming She-Hulk, and then coming here and people sort of trashing on Jen. Like, is this going to make her like appreciate both sides of her? Is this going to make her rage out and become like, you know what? I'm She-Hulk. Respect me. What sort of dynamic is it going to be? And, is that going to be sort of her character arc through all of the MCU? Is, her figuring out, I'm treated like trash by Jen. I'm, revered as She-Hulk, and, trying to figure out how to balance both of those characters into ultimately someone who's ultimately respected as either form.
Her journey is similar to, you could even say, Spider-Man's, because even in the third Spider-Man, No Way Home, sorry, when he's trying to figure out who do you want to be, Peter Parker or Spider-Man, because you can't have both. Yeah, you're either one or the other. Because to bring people into either world would cause problems ultimately. And so for Jen, it's like that, but it's a little different. Like, who do you want to be known as? Do you want to be known as Jen, or do you want to be She-Hulk? Or can you be Jen as She-Hulk? Like, that's kind of where she's at. Because with Spider-Man, it was like, if I choose to be Spider-Man and everybody knows about it, I can't lead a normal life, because now they're at risk for losing their lives by being involved with me. And with Jen, her struggle is more internal, where it's like, I'm not being respected as Jen, but as She-Hulk, I get all the respect. So it was like, how do you kind of want to live your life? And I'm pretty sure she stays She-Hulk in comics. I don't think she really, as far as I know, she really reverts back to Jennifer Walters. But as She-Hulk, what do you enjoy more? Because here's the thing, Jen's heart is still there as She-Hulk. She's just, just bigger and green, and I wouldn't say she's bigger and green, more intimidating, so to speak. But like, I don't know. I just feel like if I'm She-Hulk, I wouldn't change just to be like always a presence. I'm She-Hulk because like, this is who I am. This is who I am now. You know what I'm saying? And Jen's still here. She's just a bit taller and green. Pardon me, but I feel like that's her struggle right now, is trying to figure out like what she wants to be and how she wants to be accepted. And then taking the things that come with that. Like, now that people know she's Jen Walters dating a She-Hulk, they know what they're getting on both sides. Are you cool with that? Or are you only dating She-Hulk for She-Hulk? Like what are you trying to get? Who are you trying to get to learn? That's the big question when it comes to her dating life. And then, but yeah, I think that's kind of an internal struggle for her that we're kind of just like walking with her on. So that's pretty cool.
I agree. So we got Titania at the wedding. Obviously, there's some friction there, which is sort of interesting. We talked about her friends not being friendly. Eventually, the Titania tries to act like she's there just as a guest, but obviously she's there to go at She-Hulk, which eventually happens. And it was interesting to me that Jen couldn't instantly transform. I thought that was, she did struggle at that moment. Granted, she was hammered, but she tried, and then it just didn't happen. That might have just been a one-time thing. The fight was pretty tame. She just, kind of kicked her butt, and that was it, and didn't destroy the wedding. It was interesting to me that the bride saw She-Hulk, was so hammered. She's like, oh my God, She-Hulk's at my wedding. So I was like, cool, all right, dig that. And then, I don't know, is there anything about that fight or just that interaction that was, worth bringing up in your mind? It was pretty straightforward in mine, but.
Two things. Number one, I think her struggle turning into She-Hulk is like what they would call for a man whiskey dick. You know what I mean? It's like when you've had too much to drink and you're trying to like keep it going and you can't get it up. You know what I mean? That's kind of where she was at. Because it's funny, when she's She-Hulk, she has, she has the metabolism to like just, knock out like 20 drinks and not feel a thing. But when she's Jen, when she comes back down, she's like immediately hammered. So like for her to go back to She-Hulk would require effort that she can't put all of her energy in because she's hammered. So I think that's kind of what they were aiming at for that, kind of. Second, and this might go back and watch the episode, because I don't know if you saw this or not. When she beats Titania and then the bride comes in, there was an editing error. I don't know if you saw this or not. I think it might have been in the FX, because like the lighting changed in like 4 different shots on back shots.
Okay.
Yeah, because like it was like she's standing and you can see like the outside off to her right, and it goes from like light to dark. Like if I were to shift my body and like the light moves, it did it like 4 times in the scene. I saw it and was like, because like I used to work in television control. So like my job was to watch all the episodes my company produced and look for mistakes like that. And that kind of mistake I spotted and was like, ooh, someone's getting fired, like for sure, because I was like, that's huge. But I saw that and was like, oh. But yeah, I mean, like the fight between her and Titania was pretty simple. I thought Ched was great.
The DJ.
As a DJ and just calling it out was great. Love that. With the horn. That was great.
That's a good impression. I like that.
Been working on it. And then, so, she beats Titania. Her veneers she leaves with like a giant cake, and then the bride comes in drunk. Oh, I love Shield, which is like, again, the epitome of like people who are drunk. Not even women, anybody. Because I have guy friends who are like, yo, what's up? And they get all huggy, and you're like, okay, like, because like I'm sober now. I've been sober for like 3 years, and like when I'm out with friends now and they're drunk, dude, I'm telling you, the amount of love that comes out of nowhere from somebody is just so funny. And that was on full display in that part of the episode. And honestly, can we talk about Joshua?
Is that the guy at the wedding?
Yeah, so it was the Asian gentleman.
Yeah, before we transition to him, let's finish with him and sort of how that evolves. Let's go to Mr. Immortal next, because I don't think this is going to be long, but Mr. Immortal, we talked about this before we started shooting. Okay, he's there. We don't know if he plays a role or if this is just character development for Mallory and Nikki. You tell me your thoughts. I mean, it just seems like interesting use of time.
When he was brought into the episode and introduced himself as Mr. Immortal, I was like, it's just like a dude who's just like talking big about himself. Like, just like, you're like, again, like your typical guy in the show who, high and mighty, talks big about himself, and then ultimately is a disappointment, which he was. I do think that it was a story arc for Mallory and Nikki, for them to grow their chemistry, and then for them to grow their chemistry with Jen as well. Just like kind of like an around the way sort of deal, like it'll meet up again, because it did towards the end of the episode. Just a dude. Question: how long has he been alive?
I was wondering the same thing.
Because he has 9 partners in this, 8 women and then a male partner. So he's at 9 total. And then, but he said he had like some kind of, he said he has some kind of like gems from like a countess or something, like a count. Those aren't now. That's definitely years ago. So I was just curious how long my man's been alive. I thought it was great how he introduced himself, and there's this back and forth between Mallory and Nick, and he just jumps out the window. Which, by the way, dude, there are some moments when people are fighting, and I'm like, kind of want to jump out. There are moments, man. So I totally that moment I was like relatable. Like I totally get it. And then he lands on the car, kind of just gets himself right, and then just walks off. Nods the hat and dips. I don't know what his purpose is. I mean, it might have been for the episode. Just like your boy, what was his name? Donnie Blaze. They're there as like a kind of like a I don't want to say like a
it's just like a part of a story in the episode. It's just, I don't want to call it a filler, but it's something.
But it's not like a misdirect. It's not meant to be like, oh, this person's this person. Like Donnie Blaze was close to Johnny Blaze, but it was just like, at the end of the day, this guy's Mr. Immortal. Don't know where he came from. Just happened to be, to be in the Marvel, in the Marvel, what do you call it? The Superhuman Law Division. Just in this moment. But yeah, I don't know what he's doing.
I guess we'll see.
I mean, being terrible.
I know, right? Apparently he was a real comic book guy created by John Bryan. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm kind of with you. I'm not expecting much there, and I'm fine with it. It's some stuff in the episode that's happening, furthering the superhero division and Nikki and Mallory. So I'm good with that. All right. So you wanted to talk Joshua. So Joshua was the guy at the wedding, seemed to be flirty. Eventually, I don't know what you take it, because I don't want to steal what you're probably going to say.
No, you're good. So she has the moment with the bride, whose name escapes me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't remember.
She goes outside, sits on the bench, and then he strolls in, which is very, very like, oh, serendipitous. Like, oh, you're here? So am I. What a moment. And then he sits down and is joking with her, like, "Oh yeah, usually I approach single women and do these things, and usually they're eating candy nuts." And it's a very cute scene,
Yeah.
Of the men that we've met in this show, whether it be through the law division, whether it be through her dating life, they've all been trash.
Yeah.
Cringeworthy, as I've said. So for this one guy to be a nice dude, quote unquote, because I know that the term "nice guys" is now, it's a lie. For him to be a good guy to her as Jen, I don't know. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. There are certain things that when you see it in shows, you're like, that's definitely that's gonna come back. It has to, because he's too nice for what the show has been for what the show has defined men as so far. So I just can't believe this, because like there's only one guy, like I said, it's Pug. He's the man. Outside of that, nobody else even is on his level. So it's like when he came in, was all super flirty, and saw her as She-Hulk, it was like, oh, like there was no interaction with him and She-Hulk. It was just him and Jen.
Yeah.
Which also I wasn't like, I was like, okay, they didn't do that at all either. But she did mention to him that she is She-Hulk, and then he saw it. So
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's an ulterior motive just based on history there. I don't know that he's actually as good as we think that he is, or that he's being perceived to be.
Yep. No, I would agree with that. And I mean, I think that not just that feeling, but they sort of end the episode. I mean, well, before the end, there was this intelligentsia website that a bunch of haters for She-Hulk. So we'll see how that sort of plays out. But at the end of the episode, there was clearly a camera at the wedding, and it ends with the camera zooming in on him and her. So I was like, wait, is this confirming that he's sort of tied in with some sort of nonsense? And that camera goes to a lab computer, which goes to a table with a bunch of blood drawing equipment, and one of the needles ends up being this essentially gigantic needle that is likely to penetrate her skin. Right. Which, who knows? I'm looking at a picture here. It's just talking about, Jennifer Walters, macro blood, all this. Like, I can't tell if there's anything secret in there or not, but it's tying back in with this DNA blood type thing, which I will say I think is going to lead to the big bad in this, which in my opinion is going to be Leader, who was in The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, and was just a couple weeks ago announced for, and we talked about this when we shot with Mike, that he was going to be in Captain America 4, New World Order. So I'm wondering if there's a chance he gets a slight introduction, just like a 2-second, 5-second thing at the end of this. We see a little bit of his head being all goofy, and then he comes back and he's in Cap 4 too. Right.
I like that theory. I mean, here's the thing. Any theory we've had for the MCU is all because we try to think of it in terms of, oh, it has to go this way, and then like, no, it doesn't. You're like, oh, okay, bet, yeah, great. I could have sworn it was meant to be this way, but it's fine. So with him at the end of Incredible Hulk, the blood's dripping into his head, and then same way it happened to Jen. It trickled into her blood, and then she became She-Hulk. So I wouldn't be mad if it was him. I think it'd be a great introduction. It's only been like what, 10, 11, 12 years since he's been in the MCU. I mean, and even then in Hulk, that wasn't MCU. That was just Incredible Hulk. What I mean? But no, was it?
Because technically it's now canon, because it not only I mean, we've had Abomination references before this show, but there was the
end credit scene with Iron Man.
Oh yeah. So
he walks into the bar and sees.
It's been canon the whole time. I think they just switched actors. So it was that original one that they didn't. I think is not canon. The one with Eric Bana. So one of the things that's interesting that this website says, that this I told you I was going to bring up to you and just get your reaction, is that what do you think about, because Doctor Doom makes Titania stronger in the comics at some point, but this talks about, what if some of this blood stuff, Titania is also working with these people and wants to get the blood for her own gamma radiation introduction in her blood, and she becomes some sort of, I'll call it mutation of a gamma beast.
It'd be a nice direction to go into. It'd be a similar road with Abomination and the Leader. I'd like it personally, because as Titania is now, I don't think she's that much of a threat to Jen, because both times she's got her ass beat. So it's kind of like, I think you would need something to like kind of perk it up a little bit, get a little +1 on you. So I think that's definitely a possibility. I think some of the products she was putting out there are probably in the same ballpark of that idea. I would want to see it personally. Also, real quick, the mention of Doctor Doom. Did you see the lineup that they had potentially at D23 about who's playing the Fantastic Four? Did you see this at all?
You're talking about the tweet where like even Henry Cavill was listed in it and all that?
Dude, if he plays Doctor Doom, I will be beside myself.
Yeah.
Oh my God, DC, you might as well just call it a dumpster fire, because that would be everything to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, continuing, but like you mentioned it, and I was like, I forgot all about that.
There were a bunch of names tied to that, which could be interesting. I mean, Denzel Washington, we'll see.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so, all right, spoiler for anybody who doesn't want to see, stop, like, and subscribe. Thank you. We love you for watching. For those who stayed, last warning. So there's Denzel Washington. The rumor is that he's going to play Magneto. And that, I forget the actor's name, but the guy from Breaking Bad, the guy who wore the glasses and owned the chicken shops, who was actually the real bad guy for a long time until Walt Bloom. Do you watch Breaking Bad, right?
The black dude?
Yes.
Oh, the guy from Star Wars?
Yes.
And like all the best shows,
yes.
he plays like the best characters, dude. Yes. I would love him so much too.
So they're talking about him potentially being Professor X.
Giancarlo Esposito, he's the man.
Yes.
He's the man.
Yes.
He's in everything.
Yes.
He's a beast at everything he does.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
that's definitely like my aim.
Yeah.
That's great, dude.
So they're talking about potentially that, which would be interesting because apparently, and I don't know this for fact, but it makes sense, is that when they made the mutants, obviously a big part of it had to do with minorities, racial segregation and all that. And they were trying to use the mutant stuff as showing like, look, we need to accept everybody. Not that, minorities are equivalent to somebody who's a mutant per se, but that was what their attempt was, allegedly.
Right.
And the dynamic between Professor X and Magneto, they both wanted very similar things, but they were both different. And so the concept was when one was like more like Martin Luther King and the other one was more like Malcolm X. Now, obviously in this situation, Professor X is the Martin Luther King and Magneto, I think, would be the Malcolm X aspect of right. So there's a concept there that it could be, and both of those actors could lean into that even more. Like, I just think both those actors would fully understand that concept if it is actually true. So anyway, to jump off of what you said a little bit. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if any of it's true or not. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I got. That's all I got for that tweet.
Wild. That's wild.
I
do want to share something. I do want to share something at the end of this one before we sign off.
Okay, so I don't have anything else for the episode. Honestly, it's pretty much it. Good episode. So, what do you got? And then we'll sign off.
We are in episode 6, right? We got 3 more left. There's 9 episodes. We're gonna see Daredevil at some point. I'm waiting for it because I love that they're keeping him in. Yeah. He is so good. The character and the actor, he's fantastic. And so I mean, we're finally getting towards a bigger villain now, other than Titanium. So that's a nice little reveal. There's two reveals we're waiting for. We're waiting to see Matthew Murdock and we're waiting to see whoever the person is trying to get her blood. So we got 3 more episodes for that. I imagine, pardon me, these last 3 will probably be longer episodes than the last 6.
Could be.
They've averaged probably 30 to 35 minutes, I think, for each episode. Maybe the first one's gonna be 40. But yeah, so I'm at it, just a patience game for the next 3 episodes. Yeah, but I like where it's going. So
nice. I agree. So, all right, that's all we got for this week's episode. And we'll be back in a week or 2, depending what our schedules are like and what we think of the next couple episodes. So, thank you for stopping by. Big shout out to my guy Eddie over here. Love you, buddy. And like I said, hammer down that like button, notification bell, subscribe. Until next time, we hope you have a wonderful day. See ya.